All right, hello, welcome everyone to our podcast, The Art of Self-Care, Tools for Thriving in the Modern World. My name is Marla Wall, and I'm here with my good friend, Stacey Stone. We have a very special guest. Oh yes, we always do this. We have a very special guest, Chris Bauman, and she is a wonderful Buteyko teacher that Stacey and I are both studying with, and she has many years experience, and we're going to be offering a talk on October 14th, and Chris is going to share an info session about the Buteyko method. So Chris, welcome,
Thank
and
you.
I'd love to know a bit more about how you got into this.
Well, I had asthma and allergies from a very young age, and they were just one of those inconvenient things that I dealt with. You know, I had limited my diet, and there's things that I missed out on, and it was just part of my life, and got better actually in my early 20s, but in my late 20s, they got worse. And when I was 37, I had an asthma attack that put me in the hospital. I nearly died from it. And that was a real wake-up call, because until then, it was just like, didn't want to deal with it, and was just annoyed that it was in my life. But this was like, oh, I have to relate to this in a much healthier way. And I got out of the hospital. I was taking a lot of drugs. My respirologist was not at all happy when I said I didn't want to be on drugs. And he was just like, well, you should be glad you're alive. It's like, yeah, I am glad I'm alive. And so I wasn't going to get any help there. And I was living in Japan, where there's lots of what we consider alternative therapies, which, are traditional there. And so I had lots of opportunity to try different things. And I would have a little bit of success depending on what it was, but I was still on all these drugs until I found Buteyko. And it was one of those eureka moments. I had a 3-page transcript of a program from the BBC program that a friend of mine had seen. This is before YouTube for sure. And she sent it to me, and I read this and I went, that's it. This is going to change my life. I knew it. And this was all the information I had.
Wow.
So I went to England, I did the course, I got better, and I thought, you know what? I need to go back home and I need to teach this, because there was no one in Canada teaching it at that time.
And
And
what
so
year
that's
was
what I
that?
did.
What year was that?
Well, the year that I nearly died was 97. The year that I took the course for my own health was 99. And then in 2000 is when I did the training to become a Buteyko educator. So I came back and I got going with that, and I worked primarily with asthma and allergies and COPD. And then over time, it became snoring and insomnia and sleep apnea. And then it was more anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. Although there's lots of other things that I also work with, but less so, high blood pressure, angina, digestive issues, sports. So there's a lot of different things that it applies to, but I've been primarily focused on those who have chronic illness and don't want to be propped up by drugs anymore. I should have a caveat there. It's not that I'm against drugs. It's that I think it's important that people make themselves strong, so the need for the drugs is not there. I never, ever tell people to just throw away their drugs. That's very irresponsible.
Right, that makes sense. And now, have you found that people who had been relying on a sleep apnea machine, if they put in the work and the time, they're able to move away from that with, with the observance of a doctor and professional, but that this is maybe not necessary if they put in the work?
Yes, exactly right. In fact, in the talk that we're going to be doing next week, I give a couple of case studies of people who did Buteyko. What's wonderful about sleep apnea is that people have sleep studies. And so it can be very well documented in terms of improvement rather than self-reporting. Not that self-reporting is not valuable, but when you're talking with other health professionals, it's like, well, where's the research on it? So if you show a sleep study and a person has severe sleep apnea and they're having 100 episodes an hour, and then they do Buteyko, and 6 months later they do another sleep study, and they have 4 episodes, and they have only hypopneas, and they're not snoring anymore. That's pretty powerful.
That's amazing.
So could you, in a nutshell, those are some pretty pretty big issues for people to deal with and for Buteyko to help with. Can you, in a nutshell, summarize how Buteyko helps these people essentially get healthier, right? I mean, that's what it's all about, is improving our health and that bottom line.
Yes. Basically, it's your unconscious breathing that is the end goal. Certainly in the moment, if someone is having a panic attack or someone is having an asthma attack, there are breathing exercises to help get over those humps. But that's the short-term goal, right? To be able to manage those things, which is, the term that the medical industry uses all the time. Let's manage your condition. So we manage at the beginning, but our end goal is changing the underlying breathing, the breathing that's unconscious. We bring it to consciousness, we change it, we improve it, we come to know what a healthy breath feels like and looks like, and then allow that to slip back into the unconscious. So what's wonderful about it is that once you've established that healthy breathing pattern, that baseline pattern, that you can stop doing the breathing exercises. The other part of that beauty is that it becomes more and more integrated into your daily life, and your awareness of your body, of your breathing, of your posture just becomes part of you, right? And so then if you notice, oh, my breathing's not so good, I'm starting to have this sneezing again, or my sleep isn't as good as it was, you go back to the breathing exercises for maybe a week or something. It's like tweaking, right? And then you're good again. So that's what's wonderful about it, is it's very empowering, self-empowering. No one can take it away from you. Nobody can charge you a monthly fee for using it anymore, and I just love it. I'm a minimalist by heart, and as a profession, I could teach Buteyko with zero extras, zero accoutrements, zero technology if I had to.
That's
sometimes
great.
I think I'd like to, go in the mountains and, teach people there.
My very first yoga teacher used to say, you shouldn't need a wheelbarrow full of props to do your practice.
Well, I think that's the thing that, one thing that resonates with Marla and I about this work, especially in regards to this podcast, it's tools for self-care. And we found that so often we put our self-care on other people. I'm going to rely on my chiropractor to fix me, or this guy or that guy, or, versus can we start to develop this toolbox to help ourselves stay in balance, movement wise, stress wise, are some big play in nutrition, some things that we really focus on. But when we started learning about the breathing and thinking, on average, there's 15,000 breaths a day, and seeing the tremendous, huge effect it has on all systems of the body, it just became very aware to us, if we can start teaching people about literally a movement of breath. We've both taught movement for 40 years combined, but never do we really talk about this breath as a movement. And so that's something that's been very powerful for us to come to understand, experience, and now share with people, is that simplicity of a tool that's free once you learn it.
Well, absolutely. And the responsibility we have, I mean, once you know better, you have to do better. And so I think at a certain point, I felt I was guiding people in their breathing. I felt really comfortable and confident in how I was guiding people in improving their breath. And I think it took me about a year to fully digest that what I had been teaching had actually been nudging people in the wrong direction. In terms of guiding a very deep breath. I mean, we don't need to that's probably getting already very technical, but I've been searching for something to help restore the unconscious breath. I just had this feeling that that's where there was a bit of a gem of health. And I'm curious, Chris, I had one more question. What are some of the signs? You mentioned sneezing. I know about yawning and sighing, but there are some little signs that we do each day that we just kind of dismiss, little things that become habit that we almost don't notice anymore. Like I noticed myself, I had this way of sighing that almost felt like yogic breath to me that I was sort of quite proud of. It was sort of like this, it was my little stress reliever. And I felt proud that I was using that as a tool for stress relief. However, the more I used that tool for stress relief, the more I needed to do it. And I wasn't really aware of that. I was just kind of telling myself, well, good for you. You're releasing your stress.
Right.
However, I was kind of winding it up. I now know. But what are some of the signs that people might not realize?
Well, of course, the most obvious one would be mouth breathing. People don't think it matters if you mouth breathe or nose breathe, but it's actually really, really key to the Buteyko method. That's it. And that transition that people make from being a chronic mouth breather to being a nose breather can be really huge, very impactful for people. And people don't realize that they mouth breathe. It takes a little bit of self-awareness and maybe asking for the help of others. Can you let me know when I'm mouth breathing? So that's a big one. As you mentioned, coughing a lot. It really is disruptive of your unconscious breathing pattern. Pain, it's going to make you hold your breath. Stress is going to make you hold your breath. If you wear a mask and you notice that you suck in the cloth close to your nose as you're breathing in, that means that you're breathing too heavily. You're inhaling too much air. There's a lot of things. When you take a big breath and you feel like it stops at mid-chest, it just is not satisfying. And then there's more of a struggle and you're like, just trying harder and the shoulders come up. That's all indicative of poor breathing pattern. If you snore, if you can hear yourself breathing, those are also, if you get breathless when you're talking, if your recovery is really, really slow from just walking upstairs, if you have to stop and take time and you feel like you're grasping your breath. But then there's things that are more further afield, like you always have cold hands and feet. You have difficulty falling asleep, or you wake up in the morning and you feel like a Mack truck has driven over you. Irritability, inability to focus. In this COVID environment that we have, people are so stressed. And so then we start looking at facial things with when you wear a mask, but that can happen regardless, right? It can be an indication of poor breathing. For example, babies who have asthma often have eczema, and it comes from the same source, which is overactive mast cells. So there's a lot of different things. When I do a course with an individual and I have an intake form, there's like 60 different symptoms that are all related to breathing.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I am really looking forward to this talk, giving you the floor next Wednesday, October 14th. It'll be 7 p.m. Pacific time, and it'll be on Zoom. So anyone can join from anywhere. We will be recording it as well. So if people want to, you can still sign up and receive the recording. And Stacy, did you have anything else?
I don't think so. I just want to encourage all of our listeners, especially those of you that have worked with Marla and I before, to check this out so that you get the opportunity to just get a little more information from our teacher. She's going to go into detail about some of these things she spoke about today and get you to really start being aware and getting connected with the power of the breath in terms of health. I just started reading the book Breath by James Nestor, and that's blowing me away. Just his between him and the friend that are doing it, and the number you spoke about sleep apnea and the number of events per night, going from no events and a night of sleep to tons and tons. It's really I'm grateful for him putting out this book, because I think in this time of us having to wear masks all the time, and him putting out this book, I'm hoping a deepened awareness of breath, and people start considering this thing that I'm breathing, I'm good, right? That's the thing that I find. Well, I breathe through my nose, I'm fine. So there's the subtleties of it, just like Marla and I teach with movement. It's really gets back to micro movement dictates macro movement. Mm-hmm. And if that micro movement of the breath, that constant breath throughout the day, is a little unbalanced and a little dysfunctional, it's going to affect some element of our health. And the longer we ignore it or not aware of it, the more compacted those symptoms become. And for what Marla and I see is we get those people, well, I'm just getting old. It's a part of getting old. Mm-hmm. I refuse to believe that, because there's so much that people are not doing in terms of a movement perspective, in terms of nutrition. And now I'm seeing it. I even tell people, if you're not going to move and you're not going to eat right, at least breathe right, because there's so much that can be taken care of. But then it's like, if we can establish this balanced breath, that's a healthy breath, I kind of have this feeling that once that's established, the ability to exercise and eat right are going to come a little more easily to people when the health of the body is kind of where it needs to be. So looking forward to that talk with you, Chris. And is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Chris, today that you might be speaking about next week?
Oh yeah, Chris. Anything else? So I was going to thank Chris, but yeah, Chris, is there anything else you wanted to say?
I'm good. I'll have lots to say next week.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today. And yeah, just the information will be below to sign up for the talk, to join in. You could always message Stacy or I, and we have that information as well. So we look forward to next Wednesday. And thank you again, Chris, for joining us. And
yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.